Alright, got my quick meta video that I promised coming. So, we're going to do Pyre tier lists. Now, there's a lot of ways you could evaluate these. I'm basically just evaluating them from more geared toward, like, in a really tough run, what are these going to do for me? Are they going to prevent me from losing a win streak? And of course, I'll still give some weight to the high end of these and not ignore that entirely. You know, sometimes just securing a medium difficulty run and not leaving room or giving you less room to lose is worth something, right? But I think mostly I just care about, like, does it pull me out of just a horrible clan combo or something? And if I have a weak start especially, is it helping me any, or is it just only making everything worse? So, with that in mind, we'll go through them one by one here, and the first one, felt like I really needed to make that caveat, is the Life Mother's Pyre. Now, I know that this is in a lot of people's S tier, and that's okay. I think that just means that they're evaluating it based on the high end, which, of course, it's a very fun Pyre in most runs, because you can just dupe a ton of cards and just have a laughably overpowered run. But for me, I'm ranking this in the C tier. Now, if we go over here and look at the in-progress wiki here, Life Mother's Pyre, you'll notice there's a few things we have to take into account, and the stats. Granted, I think they made the stats a little bit better, but generally speaking, the stats, they're not great. You know, 35 is the second lowest Pyre attack. Granted, there's a lot of Pyres that have that attack. And 75 is an okay amount of health. I think that's the component that they buffed a little bit, but it's still not like amazing Pyre stats. So, given my evaluation criteria of these things, what's it going to do in a really bad seed? Well, in a really bad seed, I just don't think it really does much for me, because usually a bad seed means it's bad from the start. I'm usually losing a win streak in the first 3 rings if I'm going to lose. That's just how it is. And what's it give me in that case? It just gives me pretty poor to mediocre Pyre stats as far as attack and health go. But the actual effect also doesn't just really do anything for me. I mean, you have to think that if I'm having a bad run, I'm not getting good cards, and I'm not getting good upgrades offered. You know, a lot of these runs, when they're really bad, think like Eka or Tethys, like a start with some of their bad paths, some bad starter like Miser as your unit, and maybe just some spells and artifacts that don't do anything for you. Well, you're kind of reliant on, you know, you probably took very close to almost complete death on your Pyre, so you don't have much health left to work with on your Pyre, and by ring 2, immediately I need some help. And I just don't think Life Mothers gives you that often. Sometimes it does. It's not completely worthless in that regard. I just think on average it doesn't really help you in the first 3 rings. It's a Pyre that really comes online later in the game. And it's like, it's really good when you have a good card to dupe, but if you had a good card to dupe and you've made it to the mid to late game, you're probably okay anyway. So, you know, in card games you hear the term win more. To me, this is often a win more Pyre. It's not going to help you lose less. It will help you win more, for sure. But, you know, if early on I have to throw gold at a dupe, which is already kind of arguably not that good in a lot of cases. You know, it's good if I have a really good card early on, which again, I'm in a good spot anyway, if that's the case. But if it's not the case, what am I going to do? Dupe a bad card? That doesn't help me that much, right? Plus, I have to spend money on upgrades. I probably have to buy a large stone or something like that to even get through the second ring. So, for me, it's C tier. I know that's probably the most controversial take compared to what most people rank this thing as. So good thing we got it out of the way early. And then we got Heart of the Pact, which also is another one I think it was pretty good, but it got nerfed. in the current state, at least at my time of recording this video, I'm going to also say C tier for it. Going back to here, the Heart of the Pact, it has, I think, among the worst HP in the entire set. The only one that's worse is Savagery, but Savagery has the best attack to offset it, whereas Heart of the Pact still has that low 35 attack amount, and then the 60 health it's just really rough. Like, it doesn't give you much room for error, and the effect just doesn't really match the downside. It's like you're basically getting a draw upgrade, but I don't think it is that, actually. I think it's more like a draw upgrade. I would say just on average maybe 75% of the time. You can go out of your way to proc the draw upgrade, but that's an unideal turn in a lot of cases. If I think of it as just a draw upgrade, that means I'm doing what I normally would have done in the turn anyway, and then getting a draw upgrade. If I have to go out of my way to get draw, then it's not like as good one-to-one as like a draw upgrade would be. So I don't know. I don't think it's amazing. I do think it was alright. I would have been like maybe B+ tier before the health got nerfed, but with a health nerf, it's a pretty rough Pyre a lot of the time. But yeah, the effect is still pretty strong often, so it's like, these C tier Pyres for me are very swingy. They lack consistency. They are very good a lot of the time, but I don't know. When you lose like a 50 game win streak, it's usually one of these type of Pyres that can often be the culprit, because it's like, oh, and you may even just be overconfident with them because they generally do pretty good a lot of the time, but then you run into these bad seeds where it's like, oh crap, yeah, when a seed is rough, these don't do much for me, right? So Heart of the Pact really suffers from just having the health be low and not really having an effect to mitigate that downside. Then we got Echo the Time Father. I think this is one I'm generally higher than people on. I even debated putting it into A tier. I actually do kind of feel like it might be an A tier Pyre. It's just the thing with Echo the Time Father, I'd say, is it's definitely the highest skill cap Pyre of all of them, in my opinion. It's one that you have to learn how to utilize it. It has technically a pretty powerful effect, but you do have to build into it, and you do have to actually, be mindful of the fact that you are Echo of the Time Father. I do feel like a lot of the time I see people bashing it. Like, sometimes they may even, stream or whatnot, and I'll take a look at how they're playing. And it's like, in my head, I'm just like, well, you're not really using it, like, at all into the, you're not actually utilizing the power of it, so, of course, you're going to think it's weak. But, this is one where it's hard to even put to words exactly how to use it, because it is that kind of complicated in a lot of cases. But just to, like, give some obvious examples, like Umbra or people that have like good X-cost cards can really make use of this. Just set up a huge Shroud Spike turn or something like that. That's going to be the most straightforward high roll of it. But just in an average run, you can use it just to smooth out your first draw through the deck. A lot of the time, a lot of the times you may just draw several of your key cards and not be able to play them all. So in a way, this is almost like an Ember upgrade in those type of scenarios. It's like very flexible with what it provides you, because that just allows you to play the ones you want to play that turn, freeze the other ones, and then come back to them at a later time. It's also really good for setting up Relentless. You can just make sure that you have a key card that like either dazes the boss or saps them, or provides you some damage shields, something like that. Something that's really good as a one-time play into the boss rounds. It's very good to just freeze them with Echo the Time Father. And there's other stuff like you can, it's one of the only ways to freeze units in the game. So you can even like freeze a unit that may not want to get played at that moment, but then play it at a later time. So I could go on and on about how to play Echo the Time Father, but that's not really what this videos about. Maybe I'll do an Echo of the Time Father guide at some point, but I do think it's a pretty good one. I think it's a borderline A, but I'm going to keep it at B right now. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to bump it to A. It's one of my highest win rate Pyres. They even buffed the attack for it, so it's actually it has some decent attack for a Pyre. It's not like the highest, but it's better than the average for sure. I'm going to put it to A. I think it's pretty good. And then we get to my pick for probably the best Pyre in the game. There's no doubt about it that Pyre of the Dominion is S tier. This is the Pyre I've beaten Titan Covenant 10 with every single combo in the game. When I rotated through them, when I would get to like a combo that kind of sucked, I would just switch it. I'd play random most of the time on the Pyre, but if I like lost a few times on a clan combo, I just switched over to Pyre Dominion. It's kind of just that good. I will admit there are some times like losing the starter cards sucks, but not that much. It's at its worst when you're in a good clan combo, ironically. But even then, it's gonna be powerful. It's not gonna like lose you the game. It's pretty hard to lose with this because even though you might brick your starting offering of cards, it's like you're getting so many of them, and just having some potatoes to put down will get you through the first ring, if anything. Just whatever unit has some stats you can slam down. The only time it kind of sucks is like it can be rough for like the Lazarus champs, because the Lazarus champs often like their starter card, but on the flip side, there's so many good Lazarus cards that you can just build around those and have a kind of a unique run. It's also a very fun Pyre. I mean, S tier for fun as well. You just make the most unique runs possible with Pyre Dominion, being able to basically thrash your deck and completely start fresh and build whatever sort of unique setup from that. It's definitely, I think, the best Pyre in the game. Stats aren't great, but they don't have to be when the actual units and cards you get are just immediately powerful. It also makes your deck super thin, by the way. Like, you're always going to have a thin deck with Pyre Dominion, which allows for just easy creation of infinites if you're big on infinites, but even beyond infinites, just keeping your deck thin allows for the consistency to hit your higher priority cards more often. Then the other contender for best Pyre in the game is Malekaz. These are going to be the only two that I think I put in the S tier. I do think they have a significant edge on all of the rest of the Pyres. Now Malekaz has about the same starting stats as Life Mothers. Life Mothers actually has more health, and similarly, in the very first ring, Malekaz doesn't do anything for you, right? So, you could say that I have a level of hypocrisy there with rating Life Mothers Pyre low and shifting Pyre high, but my counter argument there is, even though ring 1, they both essentially provide you nothing. Come ring 2, Malekaz almost certainly going to provide you a ton of value. The thing with Malekaz is spells in particular. There's hold on one second. Alright, sorry about that. So we're talking about Malekaz. I've forgotten exactly where we were talking about it, but I think it was something around the lines of, ring 1, it doesn't do anything for you, but ring 2, you're almost certainly getting a power spike, because you're going to get 2 different draft choices, one from your allied and primary clan, and then you're also going to get your banner choices at the second ring. And all of these are going to be coming with upgrades. Now, the spells in particular are very highly likely getting you a giantly good upgrade, because keep in mind there are 7 big upgrades. We say big like the expensive ones, like double stack, consume, remove, holdover, stuff like that. And there's only 4 things in the pool for the other things. There's the plus 10 spell power, plus 20 spell power, and consume, And then there's the -1 Ember and the -2 Ember and Consume. And even if you hit those small upgrades, they're still really good in the early game. Ember reduction, adding spell power, these things are going to be good. And keep in mind also, a lot of these spells don't have spell power, so it's even higher likelihood that you're getting some crazy good upgrade on it. So the chances are actually pretty astronomical that you're not getting value there. And then the units are less likely to get a big upgrade because they have every clan's small upgrade. Every clan has one unique small upgrade, like Lazarus's is Reanimate 1, Umbra's Damage Shield 3, etc., etc. But even if you get those are good upgrades too. They might not be ideal for your ideal vision of what you have for the unit, but it's still getting value added to it. About the only thing that would just be bad would be Burnout 1, but there's actually a hidden mechanic on the back end to greatly reduce the odds of Burnout 1 being the upgrade that shows up on the units. So again, it's just astronomically low that you're actually not getting a significant amount of value right from the first card rewards. So outside of Ring 1 just not giving you any value, beyond that, Malika's just continues pumping value into your cards. It's way better than Capricious Reflection was in Monster Train 1 when you factor in the spread of upgrades that are available to you. You're basically getting much better spells on average in particular. There's also the context that it was maybe less good it was already fine in Monster Train 1, but it was less good also on the units, since in Monster Train 1 you usually only had 1 or 2 banner units, and they kind of needed to be very ideally crafted. But in Monster Train 2, you can fill your train with units, and it's a perfectly fine strategy, so having some unideal upgrades on them is not the end of the world, and it's immediately still beneficial. Even if it's like a Large Stone. Large Stone's super good for Ring 2, right? And I don't even mind Large Stone in the most part in Monster Train 2. It's actually a pretty good upgrade. So it's definitely S tier. It rivals Pyre of Dominion. Probably the only downside is that Ring 1, it doesn't help you. So if you have a super cursed Ring 1 and you die on it, well, Malika's didn't help you much there. That's the only real downside I can say for it. And then we got the Proto Heart Cage. It's pretty close to C, but maybe B-. It's a boring one, right? It doesn't do anything. It's just your default thing. But the stats are among the best Pyre stats that there are. I personally think they should bring the attack to 55 on it, just to make it feel a bit cooler to have, but just because it doesn't do anything, right? But it's got among the highest Pyre HP. I think it's only Entropy has higher HP, and Entropy has other things that will chunk into that. So you have a lot of HP. It's helping you quite a lot in Ring 1, kill the bosses when you have a cursed start. It's pretty hard to actually lose a Ring 1 with Proto Heart Cage. That's why I think I'm keeping it in B, very bottom of B, really. And then the attack is also among the highest. It's only outdone by Pyre of Savagery. So, your Pyre is definitely a beast in terms of surviving leaks, and, it can take on some of the early bosses if you have a bad fight against them. But that's all it really provides you. And because it has a high attack and good health, it's good for the Titan fight, but no actual effects to help you build your deck or do things in the fight is pretty weak. So it definitely couldn't be really much higher than B in my eyes, unless they just really pumped the stats on them or something. It's unexciting, but it's not something I dread to see. It's I know that I'll probably get through the game with it. And then the Quas Reservation. This is a tough one for me to evaluate, but I do feel it's an A tier Pyre. It's another one of these sort of one and done ability-based Pyres. The stats aren't great on it, but the effect is really good. 3 Ember, it's definitely similar to the Echo of the Time Father, I think, in what it does, but it's they both have their own flexibility in different ways. You know, some of the situations that I outlined with the Echo of the Time Father apply to Aquath's Reservation as well. You know, if you draw too many key cards on the same turn, well, Aquath's will help you play them all out, just the same as Echo of the Time Father. It's actually better at that because I can immediately play them all out. It doesn't really help for Relentless in the same way that Echo of the Time Father does, unless you purposely permafrost a card. But it's just a little bit easier. It's definitely easier to use than Echo of the Time Father. You know, it's like you can and you can play into it a bit with like the intrinsic upgrade. Like Aquath's really can benefit when you're specifically targeting Merchant of Magics a bit more than usual, because you know you can just create these really good spells that you can then put together a very powerful turn with Aquath's Reservation on. It's also pretty good with equipment. If you make some expensive equipment, you know, we're talking like a Void Bind or a Void Armament, you know, the 3-cost card that gives multi-strike, you know, combined with something else, then Aquath's, yeah, it makes it really nice to be able to know that when you draw that, you'll be able to play it. It's pretty good. I mean, in a way, it's not all that different from like the Pyre tap in some ways. It's obviously not as good as it, but it does, at least for one turn, provide the same effect that Pyre tap would in a lot of ways when you think about it, and it doesn't cost you any Pyre health to do that. So it's pretty powerful. You just have to remember that you have it, and you can build into it, right? You can make something, and there's just generally expensive cards too, right? You know, like a One-Horn Tome or something like that. It can be okay for Ember Drain. Both Echo Time Father and Aquath's can be good for Ember Drain. When you don't have like a holdover perils, you can still make it work with these as sort of, you know, you can combine them with various upgrades like permafrost and whatnot to get yourself out of that situation. So it's and it's one of my higher win rate Pyres for sure. Then Pyre of Entropy, I really don't like this one. I think it's pretty weak. It you know, it has the most health out of all the Pyres, but that doesn't really mean much to me. It'll help you, I guess, early, but it has the lowest attack along with the Pyre of Dominion. But you know, Pyre of Dominion, like we said, is just absolutely cracked. Pyre of Entropy absolutely is not cracked. There were various times when I thought it was okay, but I've had enough runs where this is just awful. This is what I'd say about Entropy. It's okay early, I guess. You have the low Pyre attack, which sucks, but you have such a high HP pool that it kind of offsets that, at least as far as the start of the game goes, and you're already starting with basically some draw upgrades in the early to mid game. But I think it's actually the worst Pyre into the Titan fight. It's the only Pyre that I think I've lost on the Titans with post-release. Sure, it has a high health pool, but it doesn't really matter when the attack is so ridiculously low, because keep in mind that the attack is even lower when you factor in what it's going to look like at the end of the run. So it's like, you know, you're just guaranteed the longest time to try to kill Dominion compared to any of these other Pyres, and it has the additional downside in the Titan fight of, like, you know, in a lot of these other fights, you're essentially getting a full draw upgrade, right? You're drawing 10 cards, but in the Titan fight, unless you've dazed Dominion, you're at least generating that Pyrelite card, so you're not actually even drawing 10 cards, you're drawing 9. So it's like you don't even get like your full Pyre effect in that fight. And then also you just have so many Vengeful Shards at the end that they actually do a significant amount of damage to you, unless you have a way to deal with them with like an artifact or like the Melting Remnant card that can burn them out. But for the most part, you're going to be taking damage mostly from these shards, and it also kind of like forces you to create a bloated deck to try to minimize how many shards you're drawing per turn, because again, it's like, sure, you draw extra cards, but come late game, when if you don't have like a fat deck, quote unquote, most of the cards you draw are going to be more vengeful shards. You just have a ton of these in your deck, and so it's like the extra draw doesn't even mean that much sometimes. But the main benefit, I would say, is that you can safely, obviously, never take a draw upgrade, so you never have to worry about that. Usually I'm just going double Ember upgrade with this thing, and then you can kind of build accordingly. But the thing is, not every clan combo can make use of that, is the problem, in my opinion. Some clan combos are just cheap. They're built around cheap cost cards, especially some of the original clans, the OG clans. Like, they just don't really make use of high cost cards. The only ones that really do would be Hellhorn and Umbra, so for them it's fine. But I don't know, for like Awoken, and if with Awoken, it's like you either get Awoken's Rail Spike or not, and there's not really that many great high cost cards. I guess there's some okay ones like Cycle of Life, but I just don't really think it's very good. And then Bogworm's Growth, I think it's right there in the C tier. It's one of my favorite Pyres from a fun perspective, similar to Life Mother's Pyre, but I think similar to Life Mother's Pyre as well. It just doesn't do anything for you in a Cursed Seed, especially early on. It does nothing for you Ring 1. It has very bad stats. It's right there with among the worst statted Pyres in the game. And the effect just takes way too long to come online, and usually, and this could just be a playstyle thing, but I'm comfortable enough with the mid to late game usually that it's just the early game that I really need help with, particularly from my Pyre, because the Pyre is like just something that you can see a direct effect with on the early game especially, and I don't know, it just doesn't really do anything. It's like I get one pip by the second fight and then another pip by the third fight. Those pips might not even be relevant, It's random where they go. And if they get, sometimes, like, you just have to adapt to it, obviously, but that's kind of hard to do when you are building, like, you're usually having to build your deck without knowing where the pip is going when you're actually, choosing the cards. Like, if I choose a unit that has a certain pip space, I can only really plan on it being on a floor if I know what the pip is, but I don't know what the pip on that floor is going to be until a later fight, right? The fight after I pick it. So if it gave you like an indication of where it's going before you entered your fight, then it might be a little bit better, but I just think the random aspect of it is inconsistent and can lead to just very low value from the Pyre. And yeah, I don't know. You get the most value from it later on when the fights are usually already, the run is already usually either off to the races or dead by then, right? So I think it's definitely a win more Pyre in a lot of cases. Does not help you lose less. So that's kind of what our C tier is in a lot of these cases. And then we have Pyre of Savagery. I'm going to put this at the top of the A. It's considerably maybe worth S, but it's almost like I would have to make another tier in between A and S, because it's definitely not as good as Pyre of Dominion and Malika's. Those have a significant edge. But I also think it's definitely better than Neko the Time Father and Oquas Reservation. It's just such a powerful and fun artifact, Pyre. Technically has the lowest health in the game for Pyres, but that really doesn't matter because it has the highest attack. And attack is actually completely overtaking health in most cases. If you think like early on, let's say I get hit by the 9 attack Sap Boss. And what is like a likely, in a Cursed Seed, what's like a likely amount of health that guy gets through? Well, it could be anywhere from like around 170 to 200 health in a really bad fight, right? So, or maybe we'll say 140, but in either of those cases, we're just looking at 3 to 4 hits. You can survive that with Savagery even with a low amount of health. In most cases, and you're not going to survive that with like some of the lower attack ones, because you're going to have to go like several rounds, right? So it can actually it can pull you out of a bad ring 1 better than actually these higher HP, lower attack Pyres can. And then also in the final battle, the Titan fight, sure, you got the low health, but guess what? You do by far the most damage to Dominion. I mean, it's ridiculous how much damage your Pyre does to Dominion with Pyre of Savagery. So like if this Pyre only had these stats and no other effect, I'd still rank it like B tier. That's how good the stats are on the Pyre of Savagery. But then when you couple that with the fact that it has a pretty good effect of giving every unit basically a Bloodthirsty Blade, that's pretty good. And I will say there are some combos where that effect is just not really doing anything, which probably is why I keep it out of the S tier. Under Legion almost certainly does not care about this. Maybe a Belit does, but none of their actual units do. And maybe in some cases you're like a conduit deck for Luna or something, or so you're not really getting slays, but a lot of them do have slays. Lazarus has a test subject alpha, which loves this. Any sweeper will love it. Any unit that can kill with spikes will love it. Any multi-striking unit will love it. And even if you don't have any of that, even just a single striking unit, they're at least getting, maybe 20 attack permanent over the course of the run. That's okay when you factor in that the Pyre just has good stats. So definitely one of the best Pyres in the game is Pyre of Savagery. And I do see people rank that one low, and I think they're not really thinking about it correctly, because they usually rank it low because of the low health. But the fact is, I would take the Pyre stats of Pyre of Savagery over Entropy any day of the week. Any day of the week. I mean, it's literally like the Titan fight is like 1/3 as long compared to Entropy when you compare it to Savagery. And then we got Herzl's Horde. This one's a bit... Wait, is this Herzl? Let me double check. Visually, I can't tell. Yeah, that one's Herzl Horde. Okay, so, wait. No, it's Fire's Greed. Okay, this is Fire's Greed. Never mind. Fire's Greed is really good. This is also right with Savagery at the top of A. Maybe I should just bump these others to B, because... I feel like we do need to distinguish them here, and like they're, yeah. Let's do that. I'll do it like this. Yeah, I think that these two are definitely a cut above the others. Fire's Greed was my initial go-to Pyre when I first started playing the game. It's just really, it's a really feel-good one. Like, it has pretty good health pool at 80. It's among the best. The attack isn't anything special, but that helps you survive early game a little bit, right? And but the context there as well is like, if you do have a bad fight, ring 1 or something, well, those leaks are going to translate to gold, and you're going to get a bunch of gold for ring 2, and you'll immediately be able to have a comeback mechanic. So it's really good in that sense. It's like, if you're doing alright, you're doing alright. If you're doing not so good, it does give you a pretty good catch-up mechanic, which is making it definitely highly ranked in the way I evaluate things. How does it help me in a bad seed? So, but at the end of the day, it just makes taking the damage from the Vengeful Shards just feel better, because you want it to happen. You basically never play a Vengeful Shard when you have Fire's Greed. It's always worth it to take 1 damage for 10 gold in almost every case, unless you're like about to die. If you're on like maybe 3 or less Pyre health, maybe I'd start playing them. But and then obviously once you get to the Seraph fight, you want to stop playing them unless you have reasons to keep getting gold. But in between there, aka most of the game, it just feels nice to not have to worry about these Vengeful Shards hitting you. And, it's actually a good thing that they hit you. And, even I would say, like, if a unit has, like, 3 attack, it can be worth it to just purposely let them leak in some cases. 3 to 4 attack might still be worth 10 gold in a lot of cases. And then also other forms of revenge. It's like, you know, if you're fighting Pyre Hunter Archeon and he hits you, you get gold for that. And, I think you get it from Pyre taps. Basically anything that damages your Pyre, you're getting gold from. So it's just really, really good Pyre. And then Herzl Horde. I feel like it's inconsistent in the way that the C tier ones are, but it's maybe just overall a little bit better than them with consistency, so I'll put it in B. Definitely has some crazy high rolls, but again, I just don't think it really does anything for you in a bad run. The stats aren't good. You know, 35, 65 is sort of the not good baseline, I would say. You get 4 deployment Ember, and then deployable upgrade is cheaper, which is whatever. I find that that's not going to save you that much gold on a run, unless you're really hitting the Merchant of Arms, which I don't think that Merchant of Arms you should force all the time, but certainly with a Herzl Horde, you'll at least hit it rank 3 most of the time. But that's the problem. It a lot of times doesn't really do you anything before ring 3, which you might just be dead by then. And especially if you know, you got the OG clans which currently don't have any equipment and rooms, so deployable isn't even. It's only going to be useful on, like, you know, neutral stuff, so there's not like extra things there. But also just some clans, I don't know, it's a lot of extra energy, and only having the first banner, often you're not even getting to a point where you really can make use of that Ember. Some clans can use it better, obviously, but, you know, we're thinking of the cases where it's not so good, right, where a lot of these clans, every single unit is only 1 Ember, there's nothing that costs more, so it's just not doing anything for you early game a lot of the time until you get to that first Merchant of Arms. And then at that point, it's like it gives you a little bit of extra gold, and then it allows you to comfortably put together like a merged deployable item, and that's pretty good. So it is good. I mean, I think it is still overall better than these other sort of swingy Pyres, because it's not necessarily that swingy. It's just like you have to get to ring 3 before you actually get value out of it usually, which is not like ideal in a lot of cases, but it's certainly incredibly powerful past that point in most cases. And then we have Whinge Spirit. I don't know who I would say is worse between Entropy and Whinge, but I kind of say Whinge because it really doesn't do anything. You know, it's one of these ability-based Pyres. I guess they brought up the attack a little bit, but it's still, I don't know, the stats aren't amazing. They're okay. Maybe I could put it ahead of Entropy just because it does technically have better Pyre stats, kind of. It's like a little bit, it's significantly more attack than Entropy, which alone is probably better, but, and it has okay health, but I don't know, like, the ability is by far the weakest of all the Pyre abilities, like the activatable abilities. It, over the course of a run, there's hardly any ceiling with it, and the floor isn't even existing either, and a lot of times the heal is completely irrelevant. So, I don't know, I just don't think it does much for you on most runs, and yeah, what's it do for you? One-time heal on just the front unit. Doesn't clear off like late game. It's not really doing anything, right? Like it's not going to clear off your corruption. It's not going to clear off your melee weakness. It's not going to like deal with the actual threats that the late game gives you. It's not going to give you more max health. It's like you're just dying to giant damage later on, and heals just aren't that important. So it's only really doing anything for you early game, and even then it's like, okay, it helps with the Relentless a little bit, and that's about it. I mean, that's the main use. It's like you basically can full heal for Relentless, and in a lot of cases that's irrelevant. You know, a lot of these combos already have some sort of healing anyway, and it's like the thing that you're playing anyway. or it can just save, like, usually it's only going to save one unit, even though it affects all of the front units. It's like, it's rare that all of your units are like lining up on when they're going to die. So usually you're only using it to save like one unit, and that's just not that good. So I really don't think it's a very good Pyre. I hope they rework it, honestly, at some point. There were so many better ideas for this Pyre that were too strong that they didn't go with. I won't say what they were, but it was a very... It's sad that this is what it landed on, let's put it that way. But I really hope that they redo it, and I think they will. I don't think anybody's in love with this Pyre, but for now, in the current state of the game, it sucks. And you know what? I'm actually gonna drop it below entropy, because at least entropy I can take, like, I have some perceived upside with entropy. There's like no perceived upside with Wenja's Spirit. Just a boring, crappy Pyre. So that's it. Let me know how you would personally rank your Pyres. You know, there's no right or wrong answers here. We all have different experiences with the Pyres, and we have different ways we evaluate them. I totally am fine with whatever you say, unless you tell me that Wind Spirit is S tier. That's the only thing I'll disagree with you. I'll even allow entropy as S tier if you really just like taking double Ember or double pip upgrades and stuff. I can see how you might like it, but I can't see how you would like Wenja's Spirit. That one I will not accept. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching, and until next time, peace.